you're watching Talking Europe on France 24. I'm Catherine Nicholson. It is now just over 1 year since the World Health Organization declared the Covid-19 pandemic on March 11th, 2020. Here in Europe, more than 571,000 people have died since then of the illness. 45 million doses of Covid-19 vaccines have been administered, but there are concerns in some member states about the safety of the AstraZeneca jab and complaints too about the slow pace overall of the vaccine rollout. Well, among those raising concern about vaccine delivery is the Prime Minister of Croatia, Andrej Plenkovic, in Brussels right now, where he's also been speaking to EU officials about the economic recovery from the pandemic and his own country's ambitions to join the Schengen travel zone and the euro. Andrej Plenkovic, thank you very much for being with us.
Hello, nice to be in your program again.
I'd like to start with those issues of vaccines, if I may. In terms of the population, Croatia has had a death rate from COVID that's just about on a par with France. And in terms of handing out the vaccines, Croatia is also in a similar position to France. It's very low down the league table of European countries. It's vaccinated to just about 5% of the population compared to 10% in Denmark, for example. All EU states, including yours, have been allocated proportionately the same amount of vaccine. So why is it the case that so few have been given out in Croatia?
We had about 250,000 people who got the virus, who got the contagion and who were ill. Unfortunately, 5,600, a little bit more than that, of our citizens have passed away, and we regret that, and we always express our sympathy to their families. At the same time, Croatia has, as everybody else, been in the process of ordering the vaccines from various pharmaceutical companies through a centralized system which was devised by the European Commission. We initially ordered 2.7 million doses. Croatia has, for the knowledge of your viewers, only 4 million people population, meaning that the population which is older than 18 is even less. And the idea was to have more than double total of doses. So 2.7 AstraZeneca, 1.9 million Pfizer Moderna, 1 million Pfizer BioNTech, 1 million Moderna, 1 million Johnson & Johnson. So we have more than enough. The only problem that we face now, that the vaccine is being distributed pro rata, depending of how much you ordered from which company. If there is a problem with distribution or production in one of the pharmaceutical companies, then we face the delays in the distribution. That's why I came to Brussels to talk to President von der Leyen and her team and insist that what we have signed, what we have reserved for our citizens is delivered on time, so we can have a more massive vaccination exercise in Croatia. This is the whole objective of my visit here.
Well, there has been a lot of dispute in recent weeks about the terms of the EU's contract, specifically with AstraZeneca. And as part of the rows with the United Kingdom, the contract that the UK signed has been made public, and also the one with the EU. Now, it seems to many people who've looked at those that the UK did get more advantageous terms in terms of securing its supply of vaccine. For you, has the European Commission negotiated a good deal with AstraZeneca?
What I understand after this visit, there were really deep and intensive talks from the Commission at the highest level with all the pharmaceutical companies, and they are insisting on the faster distribution, which would then end up in all the member states and enable us to vaccinate as many people as we can before the tourist season. This is a strategic objective of all of us.
Well, amid this shortage of vaccines, your fellow member state, Italy, recently blocked the exports of 250,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine to Australia. They said AstraZeneca hasn't met its supply commitments to the EU, and that was their justification. Do you agree with Italy? They were right to block that export?
The way that I understand this was that the European Commission has asked for the total overview of exports of the vaccines from the EU territory to other countries. And given the problems in the distributions that occurred with AstraZeneca, this was the decision taken by the Italian government as a signal, a concrete signal to this company, you should respect what has been signed in terms of the needs. It certainly was not a gesture against the Australian government or the Australians. This was a signal that we are facing delays, and one of the ways to do it was to control the exports from our territory, especially from the countries where they are producing vaccines.
And just another question on AstraZeneca. In the last couple of days, several countries, including Denmark and Italy, have actually halted their use of the AstraZeneca vaccine over safety concerns about blood clots. Is it possible that Croatia will also stop using AstraZeneca temporarily?
For the moment, in the process of administration of the AstraZeneca jabs, we haven't noticed any of the manifestations that perhaps happened in some other countries. On the contrary, we were of the opinion from the start that the AstraZeneca vaccine was okay also for our citizens above 65 years of age. And this was the opinion of WHO, opinion of European Medical Agency, opinion of our Health Public Institute, our Ministry of Health. So at this stage, we have no reason, no foundation to undertake any such measures according to the data which is available to us. So we will continue with the vaccination with AstraZeneca.
Another vaccine that's much talked about, Sputnik V, the Russian vaccine. You recently said that Croatia is, quote, more than ready to procure that vaccine if it gets approval from the European Medicines Agency. Now, that approval isn't a legal necessity for European member states. Why would you not follow, for example, Hungary and Slovakia, who have not waited for approval to buy those doses? And Hungary is on 12% of its population vaccinated at this point.
Well, our position has been very clear. The issues of public health, issues of safety of our citizens, issues of vaccination should be taken with the utmost caution by any government. That's why the institutions such as European Medical Agency or the Croatian Agency for Medicines exist. They are the filters, they are the expert pool which should empower us as government, those who were democratically elected by our citizens, to take prudent decisions. And we said we will inquire in bilateral talks with the Russian side if there are what is the content, what is the process of production, what are the first data which is available about the vaccine, in order to be prepared that once the European Medical Agency approves the Sputnik V vaccine, then we would be ready to buy it and to administer it in Croatia. There is no problem. We are all looking around to see how we can get more vaccine in a shorter period of time. This is the critical issue. But at the same time, as a Prime Minister, I will always put at issue and place number one public health, safety and the security of our citizens.
Well, moving away from vaccines, amid the pandemic, your country recently suffered some very destructive and powerful earthquakes, the most powerful in a century and a half. There's also been a series of huge sinkholes that have opened up in earthquake-hit regions. Is it a case that the pandemic plus the health restrictions are limiting the recovery from the earthquake?
Yes, we were very unfortunate in the last 12 months, not only that we were all globally hit by the Covid-19, Croatia was hit by two devastating earthquakes. First one that hit the capital Zagreb in March of 2020 and created really devastating damages for the city and its surroundings. And then another one on the 29th and the 30th of December in the region called Banovina, which is southeast of Zagreb, where many houses have been destroyed. We have in the meantime submitted a request for the EU Solidarity Fund to the first one. The decision to support us financially in the reconstruction has already been made, and we are grateful to our friends and partners. We are just completing another request.
Now, speaking about your visit to Brussels this week, you were talking to leaders, including Ursula von der Leyen, about some big aims, including Croatia wanting to join the Schengen passport-free travel zone, as well as the euro currency. Just on Schengen, since the outbreak of the pandemic a year ago, there hasn't been free movement within Schengen. Borders have been closed and reopened almost at will. Some have predicted the end of the Schengen zone. Do you see it having a future?
Well, I think certainly it has the future. I mean, there were several reasons that there were restrictions within the Schengen zone in the last couple of years. One of the issues was, for instance, terrorism. The other issues was illegal migration. Now we have the COVID pandemic. Let's say those were the three major reasons that the free movement of people, which is one of the four basic freedoms of the European Union, was put in question. However, we all hope that there is going to be a moment beyond these circumstances. This is the objective of Croatia because we are, as the public knows, the youngest member of the Union, joined only on the 1st of July 2013, and from that moment on we were focused on joining two deeper integration. One is the Schengen zone and the other one is the Eurozone. These two topics were on my agenda with a number of European highest officials, and there is a lot of support for us joining Schengen. At the level of the technical data, I think we have fulfilled what was needed, and the Commission has confirmed this. We are now gradually moving into the political council debate on when Croatia must join Schengen.
And just on travel, your country, like many in the EU, eagerly awaiting the return of foreign tourists, tourism worth about 1/5 of your country's GDP, in fact. There's a proposal from the European Commission for a kind of vaccine passport, which could also help people who've had a negative PCR test to travel, for example. Are you in favour of this measure? Because, for example, in Belgium, there's a lot of opposition.
Our Ministry of Tourism and our Tourist Board are promoting a campaign which is called Safe Stay in Croatia, and one of the tools how we can assure all of those who would like to travel and come to Croatia this season is also to use this new proposal by the European Commission to have a certificate which would be used by those who have been either vaccinated, do have a negative test, or have recovered from COVID. So I think if it can be an auxiliary tool to help the free travel, this is of course something that we should consider.
Andrej Plenkovic, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks to you for watching, and stay with us. In part 2, I'll be speaking to the EU Ombudsman, Emily O'Reilly.